I would say because of what we have with Providence, with the packages and the containers and the repos we do, I would bet the house that we did, especially if it's in the slide. But I don't have a better answer than that.
Okay.
So it's like, but the scanning stuff, like you said, CVEs, that's one of the pieces, but we also misconfigurations, we pull that stuff. We pull, like I said, some of the other things I mentioned. Self-signed certs, hard-coded keys, all sorts of stuff like that. I can get you an answer on that.
How do you legally get access to the production code?
Well, that's a
Procurement agreement.
but that's a great question. I really wish our founder was here for that.
Tom definitely is opinionated on that.
Yes.
I think I called him like a walking Ulevite, but I think I won't give an answer for Tom or Rick, but yeah, he definitely has an answer for that. And I think, I've heard various things of, people asking the same question and then him going, well, let's all look at what's in your software. Oh, we don't want people looking at it. No, that's terrible.
He's so the founder, he's worked with our lawyers and they assured him after some back and forth stuff that we're okay because we're not pulling it apart. I wish he was here to explain it. We're not pulling it apart for malicious intent or to do something, or we're trying to repurpose it or hack it. I mean, we're just basically pointing out flaws.
But there is an education process as writing this into your software procurement or hardware procurement contracts that you're allowed to do this.
Yeah.
So you can front load it.
Gotta watch those lawyers though.
So just real quickly, building on this point, a little over a year ago, I got invited into the Pentagon to meet with a friend of mine who was at the time the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Technology for the Army. And she said, Greg, I want to get your industry perspective on SBOMs. And I said, okay. And she said, so, you're a chief operating officer and you've worked with a number of different companies. And how hard is it to get access to the source code? I said, well, depends, on the company. I said, but if you're paying us to develop the software, not a problem, right? If it's totally customized to you, not a problem. But if we've developed it on our own, if it's commercial, and now you're looking to get access to that, that might be a little bit more difficult from a visibility and from a data rights perspective. But I said, you can certainly ask for it and, we'll see. And she goes, well, what about SBOMs, and getting a really accurate SBOM? She said, because I'm concerned about it. And I go, well, you should be, right? I said, because I don't think most companies have a really accurate list. And they often rely or depend upon their suppliers to give them accurate lists. And I don't think, in many times, based upon my experience, that they are indeed truly accurate. I said, what you need, and unfortunately, I didn't know about your company at that time. I said, you need something to be able to validate the quality of the SBOM. I said, because often I think you're getting inaccurate and incomplete ingredients that go into the software. And so you're relying on it based upon a false assumption. It's your trust but verifying, but you're not really verifying it, right? And so that's why, when I was exposed to this, capability, I'm like, this is really good timing. And I think it'll play very well in the Department of War. It is a very specialized capability. It's a very unique capability, but I do see a lot of tangential where we could connect dots between cybersecurity supply chain risk management, the SBOMs, the vulnerability, risk-based vulnerability management. I think all that ties back, and I think it ties to mixed mode and the Spectra capabilities as well that we'll learn about after lunch. So.
Well, when she was talking about the education piece of it, we go in and talk to people and we're like, hey, you don't have a handle on just like traditional VM. You got, 100,000 devices and 12 million vulnerabilities and we're dying. Like, wait until you have to get into like what's inside all the stuff as these supply chains continue to disintegrate.
Let's give Rick a hand. Really. Okay, so we've heard from 3 of our 7 technology partner companies today, and we've talked about our integrated, Volver integrated technology solutions and our solution papers. And if you haven't gone to our website, you'll see for each one a write-up that this is for quantum exchange on what we call Evolver Shield, where we integrate our cybersecurity services with their software. And so this is the kind of leave behind or sometimes send in advance that we provide along with a white paper to explain it in more detail, and then a quick summary of here's how we could go about doing this for you and how we could do a 30-day trial or a 60-day or a 90-day proof of concept. And one of the things that I think Eddie hit on, and I just want to reinforce, I mean, I've looked at every one of these technologies and looked at multiple different companies that do these. And I've personally, working with my team, selected all of the companies here, right? And I selected all of you because you all represent companies that I have confidence in that have, one, done their hard work, right? And two, have got real security built into your systems and have taken the time to make it, I'll say, an overlay technology, so it's not a rip and replace, to be able to offer it in a way that's already proven to have security, right? Whether it's through the FedRAMP certification process, or whether it's through the FIPS process, or whether it's NIST approved or FIPS validated. So each of these systems has gone through that vetting, and each of them have been deployed commercially as well as in one or more government agencies. Right? So this is all proven capabilities. And that's a point that I'm also making for our BD and sales team representatives that are here in the room, that these are overlay technologies. They're fast and easy to install. They're not rip and replace. They generate real cost savings. They actually work. They've got proven use cases and case studies. And as we're seeing today, there's opportunities for them to potentially integrate with one another. Yes? Okay. So we're going to build on that. And I promise we break for lunch at noon. It's 11:59, boss. Okay. So we're going to open up the doors. We're going to take a 45-minute break for lunch. We should have some great food. I'm hoping it's outside.
It's ready.
It's there.
Okay, there. All right. Trust but verify. I'm getting the thumbs up. Okay. We got food. Take a 45-minute break. Do some good socializing. We got 4 more great companies to share, right? So take a break, everybody. Thank you.
Sorry, man. You did a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I had to chase you down the hall and you shut the door on me. I'm like, all right, I should have done one thing.
Joe's on the horizon.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Good to finally see you.
that we had before lunch, and all did an outstanding job. And so we've got 4 more technology partners to discuss now after lunch. Hope everybody enjoyed the cuisine from St. Germain. I thought it was very good. So appreciate the team bringing that in. And I don't want to be overly remiss, and I should have thanked the 2 most important people up front for this. And number 1 is Dory, and let's give her a hand, right? She's helped me every step of the way in planning this and orchestrating it. And we had to reschedule because of some conflicts. And so I appreciate all the flexibility and coordinating with everyone and getting all the presentations and working with my, team of vice presidents to coordinate, our presentations. And, so it's always a lot. And I want to thank Leah, our office manager, for work in the facility. Normally, this room is set up in a U shape with much bigger tables and chairs that are on rollers. And so they had to, move all of that and reorchestrate the room. And when I told them a couple months ago I wanted to do this, they were like, this room is set up to do this from a video standpoint, because usually we have the camera looking out at, the room, and it's set up in a U configuration. So we had to have a new camera installed, right? So we could project,
Man, you
this
really
way.
are a pain.
I have high maintenance, okay? At least that's what some of my friends said, right? But the good news is that we deliver.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so speaking of delivering, we've got 4 more technology partners that I'm very excited to share with you. And the next one is my friends at Mixmode. And Roy is the tech genius behind Mixmode, along with the founder who really created the code, the algorithms for it. It's one of the coolest technologies that I've seen in terms of behavioral analytics and analysis of anomalous behavior. And it is a fantastic tool to support cybersecurity operations centers, security operations centers. And I first got exposed to the technology, I guess it was about 4 years ago. And when John Phillips was first brought on and Jen was first hired, and I was at Peraton, and I was the VP and Chief Technology Officer for all of our cybersecurity programs. And I was looking to work with my friends at CISA to develop a new capability. And I code named that one Threat Board. Okay. Me, I like code names, and, so I wanted to bring together the latest and greatest technology and tools for advanced threat hunting. Okay. And so I came across this technology from Mixmode, and I'm like, this is really cool. I got to work this into my threat board solution. And we spent months demoing it to CISA. And at the end of that period, the director who was in charge of that organization, the threat hunting organization within CISA, said, I love this threat board tool. I love this capability to analyze and be able to reduce the noise associated with all of the incoming information from all the scanners and all the endpoint detection, and be able to prioritize it, and then really be able to just identify the needles, from all the hay and all the chaff associated with it. And that's what this tool does. And he made it very real to me when he said, based on our analysis, the typical 40 hours spent by one of our tier 2 cybersecurity analysts by utilizing this tool can be reduced to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty impressive. So that's me unsolicited telling you exactly what my customer said based on the capabilities of this technology. So Roy.
Thank you. There we go. So bottom line up front, we are an AI cybersecurity company. When you hear AI, I'm sure you've heard AI like every other presentation, you assume what that means. So here's what we are and what we are not. So we do not use GPUs. We do not use models. We are a predictive, contextually aware AI that is looking at how things interact contextually. And we'll get into this in a minute. and then doing predictions on how things should continue to interact. So what we're able to do is we're able to find those novel known and unknown signature zero-day attacks. So think of all these new AI alerts that you're coming out with, all these new AI attacks. How long does it take you to train an analyst to identify that alert, to then build a signature, to then put it in your system? By the time you're down the road to that point, you're already compromised. And by the time you put it in there, the AI has moved on to attacking you in a new manner. And so what we can do is we can see those and identify those immediately and call those to your attention without having to teach an AI what to go look for. So this facilitates a false positive reduction of 95%. What we actually see in our customers is somewhere between 93 to 97% reduction in false positives. And what this does is you can ingest your existing signatures. It'll then look at the deviations in the environment and say, based on the deviations, what I'm seeing, these are the ones that are important and all these are garbage. These are just noise that are causing you to spend a lot of time being wasted. This also helps facilitate proactive hunts. And we can be deployed in both connected and disconnected. So we have a SaaS model that is mainly focused around our critical infrastructure and commercial teams. And then for the federal space, I'm federal, which is why we'll see all the stuff on the left here. That's all federal focused. We have fully air-gapped solutions where they run it on-prem. We do not require FedRAMP. If they want to run it in a FedRAMP cloud, Gov cloud, they can deploy our software into that environment and inherit that specifically. We are in the big three intel. So we are on both sides of the water deployed. We're actually building out a contract right now to increase insider threat capabilities with the Virginia side. We are deploying across the Air Force right now. We have a large ELA. This 4,500% growth number is due to the contract that's then being converted to the ELA by the end of the month. So you'll see that 4,500% growth last year alone. We have various NATO partners that are being deployed on flyaway kits as well as in the NATO countries. We're working with Italian military and other countries as well. And we have various active engagements across the DOW space. I'll pause before we go to the next slide. This is all federal. We have a whole other section of the company that's focused on critical infrastructure. So we are deployed across energy grids today. We're deployed into financial systems. We're doing IT, OT type data systems. Honeywell is one of our other customers that we're looking at getting into manufacturing. And so we can deploy this technology across multiple different infrastructures and caveats. Next slide. So where did we come from? So this isn't an AI that was designed to go look for cyber stuff. This was an AI that was developed by DARPA. It was applied to jet engines initially. So if you think of the SR-71, I don't know who, probably a couple of you are familiar with it.
Mhm.
When it's on the ground, it leaks fuel. It goes up, metal expands, closes those gaps, and they have to then refuel it to then go up higher. And so we are predicting the expansion of the metal, the temperature, the fuel pressure, the altitude, taking all these contextual pieces in and predicting failure. And we were telling the pilot to come down before they lost the aircraft. We were doing that's where this started from. We then moved into using it for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So we took all the NOAA data, the viscosity of the ocean, viscosity of the oil, currents, temperatures, all this stuff. We were able to predict where the oil would come on shore within 3 feet within 5 minutes. So that's how they actually started the cleanup efforts. Mixed Mode was founded in 2019. The federal team wasn't founded until about 4 years ago. But we then took that and applied it to cybersecurity. So we said, hey, this model is predicting changes and it's able to predict how things should continue to interact contextually. Let's apply this to network security. So that's where we initially started, looking at network data. We then moved into applying this to cloud. We had Capital One as one of our customers come to us and say, hey, we have a large data breach. We're losing $10 million a day and we can't figure out what's going on. We have a user behavior analytics system, but it's not catching anything. We ran their data through, we identified where it was going. We then took all their old data and reran it and were able to identify who the initial actor was. It turned out to be a former intern. Somebody forgot to shut his account down. He sold it on the black market. Adversary came in and was doing data exfil just under the thresholds because he had told them what the thresholds were for all their tools. So we were able to track that back and shut it down. Next slide. So what do? We're based on dynamical systems mathematics. So if you want to get into that, that's kind of what this is. It's a mathematical algorithm. that's running. It's contextually aware, and it looks at how things interact contextually. So if somebody comes in, one of the big things that I like to use is somebody doing a data backup. So if somebody comes in and is tasked with doing a data backup today, let's say Bob is tasked with doing data backups, Bob's never done this, AI is going to say this is unexpected, it looks like a large amount of data exfiltration. I don't have to, as an analyst, go in and say this is expected or unexpected. There's no training, reinforcement learning that I need to do. AI will watch and say, okay, well, last week Bob did this, so I'm going to lower it down from a 10 to a 9. And then the next week it'll start lowering it down, as long as the context stays the same. It'll eventually keep that as an informational, but if Bob then deviates and becomes Edward Snowden in 6 months, he starts split routing, saving it somewhere else, touching a different data set, that's a new alert that gets raised up. So I didn't have to train the AI. I didn't have to go in and say this is expected behavior and whitelist it like we do in most of our tools. We allow the AI to understand the context of how this all works and move on from there. So it creates a continuously evolving forecast. Here's your evolving right there. Check. It's everywhere. Everything evolves, right? So what that looks like is when we see a lot of other AI systems being put in the market, they spend a lot of time training the model before it goes into practice. Then if anything changes in the environment, they have to then retrain the model. Because this is a self-training, essentially, AI model, it doesn't need us to go in and train it again. It's continuously watching how you change and how your environment interacts. It is able to pull out existing bad guys. So if you have an environment that we go into that is already compromised, it's still pulling those compromises out. It's not learning that bad behavior. It is self-supervised and self-learning, which means that your analysts don't have to do anything with it. You put it in there, you let it run, you can run it as long as you want. We don't have to go back and update AI models or any of this stuff down the road. Next slide. So we can bring in network and OT data. As I mentioned, we can bring in identity data. We can bring in logs from public clouds, things like this, as well as Intel threat feeds. Intel threat feeds help give your analyst better visibility of what the alert is, because AI is just going to say, hey, this looks weird, and it's, anomaly on port 22. Well, what does that mean, right? If I can then tie that to known signatures, hey, this is actor 1, 2, 3, or whatever it might be, and add additional context, that's what we're trying to do, is give the analyst additional context of what type of attack or who this might be specifically tied to that. We are working on expanding some of that stuff out. Some of the future stuff that I want to do is being able to take full TTPs and overlay what we're seeing of a known TTP, and then show you the highlights of here's the other things that the AI is picking up that your TTP doesn't even know about. So just kind of broadening that attack surface out. So this provides, precision alerts, more focused, actionable data for your analysts to take action on, prioritize risk. So we do have a risk score within this as well. Low touch, so there's no tuning, no training, complements your existing roles that you might have in your environment, and operates in disconnected environments. Next. So what it means for security operations: reduce alert fatigue, as you would expect. If I have a lot less alerts, and actually what a good one with this is we have a customer on the Maryland side who was running us side by side with another AI vendor, and they came to us a week and later after running us and said, hey, I think something's wrong with your system. Like, what do you mean? There's no alerts in here. I said, well, let's go look at it. Well, yeah, there's no alerts because you're running in a lab and you don't have anything bad going in the lab. Right?
They firewalled it.
But the other security vendor was kicking out 10,000 alerts a day because it was just garbage alerts. So, that was like a wake up point for them of looking at looking at things. Security items was another one that they threw in there where it's generating a bunch of noise, and they were looking at it from us. I won't say the actual vendor, but that was the third one that they had in there. And they're like, well, this security onion is causing a bunch of noise. This other vendor is causing a bunch of noise, but you're causing no noise. And I'm like, because there's nothing for you to do. This is all expected behavior. You shouldn't take action on any of it. That's the type of focus we're talking about, and getting to the analyst of this is the important stuff that you should be looking at. So improved threat detection, it's actually going to surface those novel attacks, the things that you aren't trained for, the stuff that we keep seeing coming out with, oh, this new vulnerability has been around for 6 months, but nobody knew about it. Now let's build a signature around it. We're catching that stuff 6 months when it first comes out. proactive hunt. So this allows a lot of the analysts to go out in the field. We are deployed on flyway kits and things of this nature today. We are fully containerized, so we run as a container, so we're super lightweight from that perspective. We are software based, so we can be deployed on anything. We've had customers come to us and want us to be deployed on individual aircraft, and so we've looked at deploying into aircraft while it's in the air flying and doing analytics in the air. So submarines, things like this, like keep your options open. But what this does is because it's so flexible, it allows people to take this out into the field, run analytics, get immediate results. We are up and running within 20 minutes. And so once you turn this on, we have actionable data in 20 minutes. So this isn't like run it for weeks on end to understand the environment. Increase efficiency. So obviously this is bringing your medium time to detection down from months down to minutes. As Greg had mentioned, we see a lot of customers who are, again, putting this in and immediately getting action from that perspective. Next slide. I think that's the end. Yep. All right. I'll try to be quick for you guys. Questions?
Questions for Roy? Go ahead.
Yes.
Roy, how do you, I'm thinking about this and developing trust with a potential customer. How do you red team against this and what does that involve? Because I can see here, if it's self-learning, and maybe I could try to spoof it or that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it is sitting outside the wire.
Mhm.
So it is just listening. It's passive. It's not active. We want a human in the loop because at least from I'm federal focused, like mostly intelligence. So my background is all intelligence. If I take action, people die typically. And so we want a human in the loop. We do have customers that integrate this with tools that can take action, but we want somebody else to do that. We don't want to be doing that specifically. When I did a large NATO exercise a couple of years called NATO Lock Shields. And so I was on a blue team for Lock Shields. We were deployed on 2023 and 2024. The U.S. decided, or 2022 and 2023. I think last year, 2024, the U.S. decided not to participate because of DOGE and everything else. But when we went in there, that was one of their questions. Hey, the scoring bot is essentially malware. Everything has a scoring bot on it. How can I trick your AI to not see the scoring bot? And I came up with this. I was like, I don't know. The only way I could think of it was have everything beacon the same way to the same location at the same exact time. Like make it all look normal. And AI was still picking it up. So even after I thought that I could trick the AI, I couldn't. So yeah, it's really hard to go against it. And because it's just looking at how you interact. And if you change your pattern of life, then that's something different. If you use a port differently, that's something different. So it's really, really hard to get around.
Thank you.
How do you square that with the novel attack prevention or detection? If it's looking at current behaviors.
So it's looking at what's happening right now in your environment. And it doesn't need to have any trained data of what a novel attack is. It's just looking at how things are interacting. So how is this port typically used in my environment? How does this user typically use this port?
Okay.
How does this IP typically use it? And it takes the context of all that.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen like the hurricane spaghetti models, like where the hurricane's coming up and here's the 15 or 100 different possibilities that it could do it. Think of that's kind of how this AI functions, is it's making those predictive analytics based on all the context. Now think there's a million hurricanes for every identity. Each port, each protocol, each user creates a new hurricane. And now how do all these hurricanes interact with each other? And how do they influence each other? That's what this AI model is doing essentially.
It's an amazing algorithm. I've had the pleasure of seeing a number of demos and applications of it and a meeting with the founder. It is truly amazing software, right? And so we're, I think, very fortunate to have Mixed Mode AI as a partner and the opportunity to showcase their capabilities. And Roy is nice enough to be joining ACT-IACT at my invitation on the cybersecurity panel on Friday, along with a couple of other of our partners. And so we're delighted that Roy was able to take time out of his busy schedule. He's getting ready to go to Tampa, right, to meet with the Italian military.
Yep.
God bless you. They need help. But at the same time, you know, they're a good NATO partner and we want to do all we can to support them. So Roy, thank you very much. Let's give him a hand. Okay. Our next speaker is a good friend of mine. We've known each other, what, 5-6 years now?
At least.
At least. And so she sold me on her cybersecurity, supply chain risk management software. I vetted a number of different companies' capabilities, and by far and away, I saw this capability that her company, Whitehawk, has as the leader in the industry, right? And I've been working with Terry now for several years, trying to find the right government customers that really see the total value proposition that her software provides. What I love about it is going to be done completely off-prem, completely non-intrusive, completely independent, and it actually validates what a supply chain vendor's actual cybersecurity is. It's not a questionnaire. It's not a review of policies and checklists. It's an actual open source, independent evaluation of their actual cybersecurity capabilities. And it does all of this very quickly, very rapidly, very cost effectively, completely independently, and it can be mapped to any kind of cyber framework. Right? So it's an awesome capability. And Terry is also good friends with my personal friend, Scott Sage, who I invited here. So if some of you are wondering, who is this guy sitting up front next to Greg? This is my friend, Scott Sage, who worked with me at Peraton. He's one of the smartest guys in cybersecurity in the space domain that I know in the nation, okay? And he was formerly, after working with me at Peraton, he went on to become the Chief Operating Officer for the National Cybersecurity Center out in Colorado Springs, advising the entire space industry about cybersecurity and how it impacts all the different segments, or as we like to call it, the tech stack associated with it. And so I invited him here as my guest, and he's also going to be on my panel tomorrow at IACT on the emerging technologies in space. So I thought he might be able to ask some good questions around our capabilities, and we
Yeah,
might
but
be
he's
able
so
to
shy.
tap in. I know he's very demure. So with that, I just want to share, we're friends, we're family, we're looking for ways to partner together. So, Terry?
And you should relate. And sorry to tell Peraton, the absolute best technology we ever have found was Terry. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so you have the one pager on Clear, which is focused on cyber supply chain risk management, our joint solution. But I'm going to tell you about the approach. And the approach means that you can point the capability at government publicly facing IT infrastructure. You can point the capability at adversaries' infrastructure. You can point the capability at supply chains. You can point it at critical infrastructure. So it's really the use case, right, is just dependent on where you're aiming it. So I first got involved in cyber intelligence in the late 1990s. I was one of the leaders for establishing cyber intelligence across the US intelligence community. And so that was when I got the cyber intelligence bug. And then, as your government career goes, you go on to different things. So when I retired as the Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, I wanted to go back to cyber, okay? So since 2009, I've been totally focused on the commercial, primarily allied, cyber risk intelligence and threat intelligence commercial capabilities. Vetting those, I set up the Emerging Technology Center at Carnegie Mellon. It's now the AI division, and vetting those data sets, algorithms, and the outputs, okay? And then after running $1 billion portfolio at Task of all the cyber and intel community work, got the idea for the company. So it's the combination of best of breed commercial cyber risk intelligence and threat intelligence, all outside. No proprietary information. All you need is the legal name and URL. And I've been tracking it since 2009. And what we just were able to validate after a 4-year use case is that using these best of breed in an all source manner, normalizing across them, we can see it's actually 79.5% of vulnerabilities. This was matching it to the inside team who could see 91%. So the inside team, 91%, but us within 48 hours, 79.5%. And then on the compliance side, as you know, a lot of it's, do you have a policy in place? Have you know what I mean? So you can see if the policy's implemented or working, but on the compliance side, you can see 60%. But think of how that fast tracks things, right? When you're sitting down with someone, you already have a pretty comprehensive picture of them, and it's down to the control level. So what we did was create a platform that would make all of this understandable and actionable by anybody. So the idea being, right, 90% of the world can't afford traditional cybersecurity. 90% of the world doesn't have a sophisticated in-house team. Okay. To include a lot of federal government, smaller agencies and organizations, and definitely state and local, okay? And a majority of critical infrastructure. Of the 3,400 critical infrastructure US entities, about 200 are mid to large. The rest are small, and they don't have in-house cybersecurity programs or teams. So that was the concept, was how could we bring the data sets, the AI analytics together with a cyber analyst platform that is easy to understand and instrumented and can service across the many or individually. Okay, next slide. So it's open source intelligence, okay? I remember my first aha moment on OSINT was, I think, 2004. I was running the military intelligence program at OSD, and I think it was NGA, I think they were NEMA at the time, I can't remember, came in and said, satellite imagery, commercial satellite imagery just reached NIRS 5. It goes 1 to 9. That's a game changer. We were spending billions and billions, right? We could now buy commercial satellite imagery as a commodity, right? And for anything that was a standing requirement, we could just buy that. And then you're using national systems to do what only national systems can do, okay? It's the same thing here. Now, cyber threat intelligence, risk intelligence, because why? Because we're monitoring tens of millions of companies and organizations globally for the past 12 years. And so every financial firm, they get a risk assessment on you, right? Just like they get your credit assessment, they now get a cyber risk assessment. Every insurance firm, you want cyber liability insurance, even sometimes just regular insurance, they're going to buy this on you. So it is a commercial commodity, okay? So, but we're bringing those publicly available data sets together. We're running them against the AI ML analytics, and then we're delivering it via cyber software as a service or platform as a service. Next slide. So the platform and is really, you know, sometimes people look at it and they go, we can teach anyone how to navigate it in about an hour. You don't even have to spell cyber. And that was the idea, right? Because the 90% have managers and executives that don't know how to. And what happens? You say cyber and they go to my IT guy, or, you know, or go, you know, because most of them don't have CISOs or CIOs, right? So then we aren't making them more resilient because they're not owning it because they don't understand it, okay? So that was the whole, and so over the years, we've advanced it. We've invested about 4.5 million in R&D. But again, it was to make it understandable and actionable, but be able, if you're technical, you can drill down. Okay. And it goes, we now have 15 compliance frameworks. So we just added the Australian Essential 8 because of AUKUS. And when we first added CMMC, what we've been able to prove, we've implemented level 1, 2, up to level 3 across 600 companies since 2019. And what we see is through the instrumentation of the platform, through the risk intelligence data sets, filling, right, telling us what the key vulnerabilities are, prioritizing them for us, and then giving us an action plan, that we reduce the cost of getting to either level 1, 2, or 3, right, by about 25 to 30%, because we don't have to ask all the questions. And then we've automated the self-attestation portion, and we've created a CMMC provisioner within that. And we just added a mapping for if you use Microsoft 365, this is how we can fast track your governance, risk, and compliance, right? Next. So then we had a problem. We were doing it on supply chains to prove the approach. Then we wanted to pivot to critical infrastructure. And we did the first pilot across the state of Florida. They couldn't give us their list of all the critical infrastructure entities in the state of Florida. I'm talking to Australia right now. They can't give us the list of all the critical infrastructure entities across Australia. So working with one of our AI partners, we created global entity illumination. So we can look at any region in the world. You just tell us what sectors you want included, okay? And then we can give you the list. Legal name, URL, coordinates, usually a few data points. All I need is the legal name and URL to load you in the platform. So then usually within a week, I can have that baseline for whatever that sector or the region. And so then what we did was we created portfolio analytics, right, from an intelligence perspective. So then we can tell you your vulnerabilities and compliance by sector, subsector, region, and size. What are the big issues? So for policymakers, for organization, for sector leads, you can say, hey, these are the 3 things everyone needs to focus on, as opposed to trying to do everything. You really make things understandable and actionable. We first did this, and I'm happy to share the report with anyone, with the Norwich University Applied Research Institute. And they picked Lagos, Nigeria, because it's the most densely populated area in the world. And they speak English, so it could just make it a little easier for us. And they asked for 150 entities by certain categories. And within a week, we had 43,000. So again, then you can use this because you want to protect the critical infrastructure or the city or the state, or because you want to map an adversary's, right, critical infrastructure. So it can be the beginning of cyber order of battle as well. Next. And so I've been foot stomping about services of common concern. Then if you sell this to a government client and one client, right, they're buying the data, then how data licensing works is then we can drive the price down, right? I can't sell it to one government client and then have them give it to a bunch of others, like I could do it with a department, right? So to give you a sense, continuous monitoring across 10,000 entities, so for a year, where the data is updated in the platform every 24 hours and where you can download an assessment, PDF assessment every 24 hours, right, is about $1 million a year. So it's cheap. And then you can wrap a service, right, for whatever mission or whatever is the corporate need, right, or sector need. And so the cost effectiveness is also the biggest part of this. So it is a way that state and local and critical infrastructure can be supported in a non-traditional cybersecurity way. Now, if you're doing it on a large enterprise, then we treat this like a GRC audit. So don't give us any inside information. We're just going to use publicly available data. And this is what a hacker perspective is of you. And then how it works is then they let us interact with the inside team. And what it can do and has done is the inside team maybe had these were the top priorities, where to put their resources, and it often flips them. And it can introduce unknowns because you won't see shadow IT, for instance, any other way. Okay, that's it.
Questions, comments for Terry? Terry and I had a great discussion earlier about how we can integrate some of our technologies and solutions and how we can look to partner with my former company, Peraton, who recently, you may have heard, Peraton has won the systems engineering, systems integration contract for the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA.
Just 400 airports.
Yeah, just 400 airports that need to be modernized because, maybe not everybody wants to still operate on floppy disk, right? Which I kid you not.
But it's very secure.
It is very secure.
With an unplugged
From a
computer.
security standpoint, I flip and love it, right? From a technology standpoint, it is terrible, right? And from an operations and maintenance cost, it's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievably bad, but it is very secure, right? So I do appreciate that. But the reality is, Terry was just sharing with me that in conversations with some of my former colleagues, she's like, Greg, they're in over their head and they really don't have a well-integrated solution. And Greg, I need to get you and I and the BD.
And a lot of the solutions in this room.
Right. And a lot of the, our friends, right? We need to talk and showcase a number of the solutions in this room to Peraton that we might be able to help them put together a more, I'll say, integrated and holistic solution to help the FAA. So Terry and I are going to take that on and work and then reach out to a number of partners. And since Scott, I may need some of your help on that because of your relationships with some of the key technical folks at Peraton. Okay. All right. So next we have my friend Chris Pullen, and he's from his company Predictus, and how I got to know him. So the original CEO and founder of Evolver, Mike O'Kane, who's a wonderful gentleman and a ball of energy and a huge volleyball player, right? Founded the company in 2000. I believe that's right. Is that right, Mike? Okay. And Mike O'Kane is on our board. He is not shy to give his opinions on what should be done. I think that's fair to say. And usually he has really great, insightful advice, right? And so he's a technology aficionado, right? I'll phrase it that way. He likes technology, but he's not a technologist. He's really a business guy, George Mason University grad. Anyway, he said to me, Greg, smartest data scientist I know, his name's Chris Pullen, and he's got some incredibly patented algorithms and technologies, and he's working with DARPA and IARPA and all of these on leading edge technology. He's got a workflow optimization capability that's amazing. He's got a predictive data analytics capability that's amazing, that can generate customized software and do customized software models. Greg, you got to see this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And so, after a couple conversations, Chris was kind enough to come in and give us a presentation. And I walked away, wow, this is amazing. And then everybody else in the room was like, I'm not sure how we can use that, Greg. I'm like, no, this is fantastic technology. And Raul and I were so excited about it. And we're like, well, we can write this up for DARPA and do commercial solution offerings. And so I'm just pleased as Punch that Chris was able to make it here today. And he's going to talk about his company's capabilities that we've now developed into two Evolver integrated solutions. One we call Optimize, right? Because it's all about workflow optimization and doing customized SaaS models to do it. And the other we call Predict, leveraging his predictive analytics capabilities. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the top data scientists, Chris Pullen.
So I'm a obsessive algorithms person. So the algorithm that I'm going to present now is how do I diff from the prior presentations, in the sense that how do I add value to you guys? Okay, I think the value to you guys is that you should put me in the box of a bespoke machine learning group on sort of one side of it. And then we also have a strong industrial core that we've built over the years, which was based on some observations at MIT in the 90s, but ultimately we've refined it through dozens of customers. And I'll go kind of anecdotally through some of those customers, but ultimately it's just battle hardened, sometimes literally, in terms of the stack. But then we've also got this bespoke capability on the left side of the equation. And people say, well, okay, that's kind of abstract. Well, I really mean it, in the sense that I usually walk into a room and people go, well, we have an AI solution, and I've seen some pretty impressive solutions. You guys have hardened solutions in a vertical application with customers, et cetera, right? In my case, I've got a core that I've built a half dozen industrial applications with in different modalities, with a common theme, of course. And then I've also got an army of PhDs worldwide, a few dozen here in the States that I can apply to problems. The first diatribe or anecdotal area I'll go down is to also talk about, what is AI? I know that we're all sort of here going, okay, it's like the new big data term, and we're, and on this side of the room in particular, you guys have to do the same thing I do in terms of differentiation in the marketplace and all of that sort of thing. So I do want to say, as I mentioned earlier, we have technically been in the scalable machine learning business for 20 years. So
Yes.
So scalable machine learning now makes more sense to everybody.
Yep.
But when I was selling it 20 years ago, it didn't make any sense to anybody. But again, in terms of putting me in a box to help both sides of the room go out and win business, we've got a lot of depth in that space and optimization. I will also go down the tangent of talking about the mixed mode comparison that I totally see the value, and it's awesome. However, we can also build custom models for your modality, your customer modality, that will improve the condition of, improve the customer's output and what they're trying to get. Now, what does that look like? Well, going back to AI, my usual life is in the AI research community, and that's where I usually live. And in that world, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to do anthropomorphized things where you're trying to do something like a person, or you're trying to take an existing workflow that a person does and you're trying to do it as well as a person or do it better. And so you guys sort of maybe know that in a journalistic way, but I'm saying that really drives a lot of the AI research. That's why you see robots. That's why you see competitions, Humanity's Last Exam, Kaggle, all of these things where you've got an existing output that you want to get to that humans can do, but you want to do it as well so that it can be an automation copy-paste solution, or you want to do it better than a human could do. And obviously my friends are usually interested in how do we do it better than a human? So one of my mentors at MIT, Marvin Minsky, used to say, look, we don't try to set up a situation where we're creating like an artificial fish. AI is not about creating an artificial fish. It's about creating an artificial submarine based on what are the mechanisms of intelligence. So, and then another mentor of mine, Jim Mattis, who was the recent SecDef, he liked my stuff because I basically said, look, sir, I just want to get to an end state without violating rules of engagement. But I don't care about ego, and I don't care about, I want to get there. and I want to optimize how you get there and improve the lift on what you're doing. Anyway, these are sort of abstract terms, but the fact of the matter is that they really matter to different customers, whether they've been DoD, Wall Street, healthcare. And as Greg knows, part of the reason why I've been relatively obscure in the defense space and the federal space is because we had a heyday back about 10 years ago. And then I got sucked into the world of commercial medical because our stuff was super applicable, and I have a lot of peer-reviewed publications in mental health. And so we were able to do that sort of thing. Next slide. That last slide was just to say AI for the experts. The intentionality of that slide is you guys are the experts, and we have an AI solution that we can then rebuild, build, configure, and et cetera. Okay, so this is just a marketing slide to basically say, how do we save a life? How do we beat the market? There's got to be a KPI at the end of the workflow. I do have a canned product that I go and I apply, and the models are all there. They're all pre-built. You don't have to retrain them, but the model is going to tell you this person's stressed out. This person, this IBM is a hold. So it's going to have this sort of prior knowledge already baked in. The real magic has been rebuilding these models for different modalities. And I'm very proud to say that I'm consistently beating human performance on every single problem that I do, that I apply with. So that has been, a win for my teams. Next slide. Okay, so you guys may have heard of my DARPA program, which was called the Durkheim Project, which was like 2010 to 2015. We did that with Facebook and the VA. That was multimodal intelligence, pulling in mobile telemetry, pulling in social telemetry, tagging it, and trying to come up with risks. The interesting thing, because this is a technical audience, the interesting thing there is that started out because I was at Dartmouth doing scalable machine learning lab research, and on NPR they said that the suicidality signal, especially in the veteran population in active duty, was very weak, and it was an intractable problem. And I had not as much IC experience as you had, but I had some IC experience. I thought that doesn't make any sense. That means that people are not looking at the right data. They're not asking the right questions, and they don't have the right, hardware pounding on that problem.
Yep.
So we met with Joint Chiefs Office, the medical advisory, 06 is there. And they said, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let's take your Wall Street stuff, Chris, and let's change the names to protect the innocent. And so instead of IBM, in terms of buy sell, it's force protection versus asset. It's still asset protection. So if you guys want to, again, put me in a box, I've got a turnkey system that we can deploy to any financial customers. But again, the stock advisor guys don't like that, right? Because they tend to say, okay, well, that's my job. That's, I'm adding the alpha, but it will, churn and provide that output. And or clinically, again, that's been my life for the last decade, has been deploying these systems to hospitals and insurance companies and that sort of thing. Next slide. And by the way, these slides are just kind of generic marketing slides. I've got hundreds more that are more technical and geeky, some of which you've seen in prior presentations. Happy to go down that route. Again, I'm proud to say that, again, trying to diff it, that we've got a very, very, very technical team, but, bring it to the fore. Core technology, methodology, basically this Fortress 5P is just to say that we've got 7 patents plus, 5 international trademarks, et cetera, just that we've been around a while. That's all that slide is to say. Next slide. Okay, so I mentioned that Durkheim project, which I'm proud of. I parlayed it into a nonprofit where I hired a lobbying firm, and I was on the Hill all the time and losing years of my life, basically trying to convince them to not pay me anything, just to protect veterans and their lives. But whatever. So, but the point of the story is that was a high profile thing with the VA and Facebook. The thing I'm very proud of is that this 19% lift. So it turns out that if you're a psychologist and you're trained in suicide detection signals, there's a consistent very high, very high sampling size, but very small margin of error, a consistent 1% lift at any given time that you're able to see that this person is actually, mentally distraught. So they are training them for a 1% lift, but it exists. But if you add in the multimodality of all of the things going on, a snapshot of the reports, the deltas and the handwritten responses of what the clinicians are saying, what they're self-reporting, the telemetry of where they are mobily, but then you time series link it up into an HPC workflow. Now you see high gain and high lift signal. More importantly, and the Wall Street guys would understand this, you see a very slight momentum of where things are going. So you can actually create a secondary meta signal on top of a robust time series. And that meta signal is actually highly indicative. And the meta signal actually, when presented to the hundreds of psychologists and psychiatrists and military guys that I've worked with, you can see what that is. That's obfuscation. It's an obfuscate. It's in the IC world, they call like Freytag's triangle, right? It's the inversion of what Al Qaeda uses to recruit people. Yep. It's that I'm radicalizing myself, and that's the slope. So you can see that in the system, and consistently you will know that person is on a bad trajectory. Now, again, it's nerdy stuff, but the point of the story is that if you took a time slice individually and looked at that person, you'd say, oh, they're mildly distressed. But if you just took the incrementalist meta analysis of the machine learning signal, so it's a meta of a machine learning workflow, you will get that high gain. And so we created this is kind of out of order, but basically a Bloomberg system where this same system, exact same system, same code, different data sources, different entities, we were able to consistently beat the market in the Bloomberg terminal, and we deployed it with Bloomberg around the world. And so there was a time period where, I honestly couldn't afford the data fees. It was just driving me into the poorhouse. But basically, we did that for about a year with Bloomberg.
And they didn't want to continue it.
It really does step on the toes of the hedge fund managers because they want to be the ones that found the golden. They want to find the needle in the haystack. But I made some people some good money. So anyway, it's fine. More recent, and this is something we were talking about last time I was in here. It's an obsession of mine, clearly, that I'm interested in. Again, back to the conversations with Mattis. What's the mission, sir? How do we optimize the mission without breaking the law on the way there, right? Like this single-minded, dogged focus. Okay, cool. How do you get to superhuman levels? I've already got superhuman levels there, but how do we get for every modality? How do we get superhuman levels for everything? So DeepMind guys and I open sourced some of their stuff. So I am proud to say that there's been some, how with this stuff, Raul and I were talking about the fact that last year is 5 years ago type thing, that when I put this stuff out in 2019 or 2020, it was considered, I had the best system outside of DeepMind because it was with DeepMind. And sorry, the coffee's making me choke up here. So point of the story is that we've got that built into the system now. We've been able to reincorporate that. And I won't get into that because it's like complex matrix algebra stuff, but essentially we've been able to connect the multimodality over here with the multimodality over here. And it runs and it works and it's cool. And by the way, as we talked about last time, yes, there's sort of a triage of what do I get out of this? What do I care about? Well, I'm appreciative of Volver, what the two mics have built over the years, and I think that's great. And I would like to certainly help customers solve their problems. But what type of problem would I really like to solve with you guys? I would like if you guys can find a customer where they really know their workflow, or maybe they don't even need to know their workflow. Maybe you guys know their workflow, and we really can do both the predictive side of it and say, well, if you did XYZ sensitivity analysis, we get you to this other outcome. And we then are able to automate it for them and say, hey, you can just sort of, you can basically say, okay, well, given all your multimodal inputs, given all the crazy meta crap I've been talking about, how do we then go back and automate it? And the last anecdote on that is that people basically have said, well, okay, cool, Chris, you can beat these superhuman performance metrics by a mile, but I don't need a droid that speaks Spachi, right? Like I don't care about predictive analytics. I can't even do analytics on my existing systems. I get that. But one of the things I'm proud of with our system is that consistently when I present our results, now we have to get to that human level first and preferably superhuman. But once we get there, my system reverse engineers the whole workflow. It pops out of the system. On time series X, you need to do this thing to make the thing perturb and happen downstream. And we present that to people. That's usually when their jaws drop, when they go, oh, so when I was presenting this at the White House for the Jake on 2019, in the back rooms at the vice president's office, they all apologized to me and said, Chris, we thought you were just crazy. But it turns out that your system reverse engineered everything that we do. So technically it's a threat as well as an opportunity. Next slide, and I think we're done. I'm not a ringer despite this long list, but most of my work's commercial, but we have done that for those agencies. I started out, as I said, on the government side is more of like a DNI, NSA contractor. But we've had these successes. I got into a lot of econometrics working with the Fed on predicting bubbles and predicting, again, these nonlinear black swan things that don't really exist. Once again, it's just because you don't know the full modality. And last slide. Oh, second to last slide. This is just to say in terms of buckets that we're probably in a Palantir symmetrical compete if you're trying to lump us in. Last slide. And I guess I'm bringing up the fact that what I haven't mentioned before, that most of our work has been commercial. So we have deployed real-time trading systems for Goldman, real-time trading systems for Bloomberg, learned a lot there. United Airlines, been a Toyota research. We've built a lot of end-to-end holistic signals for them. And again, Federal Reserve. That's it. Thank you.
Question for Chris?
Yes.
On your suicide prevention, the side I worked with a group of people that looked for that for the Army. How does it then look at ways of preventing them to get to the point where they commit to suicide? And also, I wonder if that prediction showed we had a fair number of our analysts eventually commit suicide themselves because of working in that, analyzing. Is that showing up in that research too? So
yeah, two super quick answers there. One is that back to the radicalization Al-Qaeda model, that it is, they call it Freytag's triangle, but it's basically that you can map it, you can overlay it on like where they are in the narrative process of the radicalization, again, self-radicalization. So you can see that. And then also I would put you in touch with, in terms of the therapeutics, the intervention is really poor. This is where I got in a lot of battles with the Hill, and
because the rates are as high as ever.
Is it basically because the intervention is not easy, but I work with a lot of interventionists nationally, and I can put you in touch with those people.
So I want to do two things. First, I want to thank Chris, one, for taking the time to come here. Two, for really the amazing research that you've done in support of the warfighters, right? As a retired Air Force colonel and somebody who's been in active combat situations in the desert on a couple occasions, I appreciate and value what you've done for the Department of Veterans Affairs. When I heard your technologies and capabilities for the first time, I was very impressed, and I was thinking right away, how can we leverage this capability, especially with the Department of War, right? And, DARPA came to mind right away with Raul and I, and then we were thinking Defense Health Agency. And so we have already, and keep me straight, submitted your technology and capabilities to the United States Air Force, the Air Force Research Lab, to DARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, and we're in the process of working on some for Defense Health Agency. So we are actively looking for customers where we can leverage your capabilities to develop those very unique customized models and use cases based upon your patented algorithms and your deep bench of technical expertise. So I know it's sort of a watermelon and oranges compared to a lot of the other software capabilities that we had, but I wanted to be able to showcase also for our customers that Evolver has some very unique, very high-end capabilities through our partners that we can leverage. And that's really how I see Chris. Now, today, for our last presentation, we've got an amazing company that I had the pleasure of getting to know about a year and a half ago, and it's Rhino AI. And I got a friend of mine recommended their software and said, Greg, you really need to check out. They have the most advanced digital transformation capability. And what's really cool is it not only ingests incredible amounts of information very quickly, old code, all of the related policies and documentation, but then it orchestrates all of that code and all of that documentation in like a Visio diagram, a workflow diagram to see what the code actually says. So then you can actually do a sort of a step two, a business process re-engineering, before you put it into whatever code format that you want, right? So it was that second step that I found so unique, such a differentiator, that it wasn't just transitioning code from an old assembly or COBOL or Fortran, or believe it or not, we actually have a customer still on Lotus Notes, okay, which blew my mind. I won't mention the Federal Communications FCC, but the reality is that it does exist. I know. I was like, oh my gosh, but they have an amazing tool, amazing technology, and Moshe is here today to walk us through that, and we're delighted. We call this capability Transform, and we've been promoting this big time in commercial solution offerings, innovation solution offerings, recent demos with CMS and with the Army. We are very excited about this capability.
Thanks, Greg. Or can we we'll stay here for a sec and go back out, just set the stage. I'm going to do a streamlined version of these slides just because I don't have no demos, right? I got a couple things in there, but I'll set the stage. So our founders are, they started this company. They've been in the SDLC space, the software space, consulting space for essentially their entire lives, and basically doing this legacy modernization, the government manually and how it's traditionally been done. And now with AI, they've basically tried to reimagine what they've been doing their entire careers manually. How do we do it faster, more efficiently, and really push the needle on the art of the possible? We can go over that. So talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the market and validation of our space. I'm going to go to the next slide. We are a small but mighty team. We are stationed here, but have folks across the country. We are venture backed by Coke, which is the second largest private company in the U.S. So with that being said, we're also starting to see lots of traction not only in the government, but we also sell to the commercial space in highly regulated industries, right? I'll talk a little bit about what we do in a sec here, but think big finance, right? Some of the logos mentioned here, manufacturing, energy and oil companies, healthcare, right? Think about legacy systems and what types of companies and organizations use those things. All of those guys are in play. Couple of third-party validations, right? AWS has selected us as an inaugural pattern partner, which is apparently a big deal. And we're the only pattern partner mentioned as a Gen AI tool out of 1 of 10. This past year, we've got some GSIs partnerships with these guys that you see here. And then we were just named actually a market leader in the HFS Horizons Agentic Technology Report. All this to kind of show that, we're a pretty small team, but punching above our weight, I would say.
You're evolving.
All right, there you go. Beautiful, yeah. If you go to the next slide here. So what does Rhino really solve here? I mean,
looking at this, you guys see this, right? With the government, legacy systems, the government is in perpetual inability to move because of these legacy system challenges, right? There's projects in modernization that are taking just years to get through, right? And multiple phases. They're unable to leverage AI. Everyone's talking about AI, mandated to use AI. They can't do this because they're stuck in these past systems, right? And they need to pull the business logic out of these to make sense of these things. I manage SaaSPA, right? Licenses across are spiraling out because they're either reaching end of life, old COTS products, right? They don't know what to do with them. For the security folks in the room, all these legacy systems have huge security risk associated with them. And yet they're being told, hey, you got to modernize, we got to get off these. How do you do that? So Rhino, we're coming into play. We're offering a couple of these buzzwords that you see here, right? Speed, agility. I'll talk a little bit about how we do it, but we're able to essentially, with our software, replace kind of what we see in legacy tech, the business context that's missing in it. We can pull that from these, and these projects typically take years with consultants and big 4, big 5 going in there trying to get this stuff out. It's just a long project. There's prone to error. Humans are trying to do it. It's not very efficient, right? We're essentially able to do what takes years in days. We're talking large lines of code, millions, to we can do that in weeks and months when it comes to extraction. What else do we have here? Yeah, and then the common thread that you're going to see is, now there's a number of things as it pertains to modernization. The common thread that you'll see is that Rhino solves a shared pain point where mission critical business logic is the key thing that needs to be pulled. It's essential for modernization. So we're not exactly the best for like a lift and shift. Someone trying to do a data migration, like we can do that, but we're talking when people need to go to Java to ServiceNow, Java to Salesforce, right? They need to modernize to something, or they need to consolidate from a monolith to microservices. Lots of these use cases that I'll talk about where they cannot miss the mission critical business logic that's embedded in here because the things will break and they just cannot break, right? In the modern architecture, right? Cool. I know this is kind of like, seems like we have technical folks in the room. So this is kind of a eye chart, but there's 3 discrete things we do. And we are a product software company, okay? So I would characterize this as a Gen AI modernization tool that helps accelerate modernization wherever you see fit. And we, like I said, we do this in 3 different ways, right? Automated extraction. So we've got an intelligent automated extraction engine on the left side here. And this will pull and analyze all these different things like high code products. Someone said Lotus Notes, right? Power Apps, if you ever did Pega, all these FileNet, all these things, including existing documentation. We can pull it with our engine, analyze it, and bring it into what's called our logic and ontology repository, which is basically a logic graph. And from within there, this is the software piece of it that I'll show on the next slide. You can view and edit and change your as is for your 2B architecture, okay? And this is where we want human in the loop to be in the fold. The government's big about, hey, does this thing just go and AI does its thing? That's risky. There's a lot of human in the loop here. We do, in each engagement, our teams go in there and do SME validation with the folks involved in the project. They understand the requirements. There's a lot of communication going on here. But within this logic graph now, we have another process in there that's called our document studio. So within this visual representation that's pulled all this business logic into our software, you'll be able to see all the rules, workflows, logic, and things like that. And now you'll be able to spit it out into documentation. And so this is something that people do manually today. As soon as some of you folks who've been involved in that, as soon as you spit out some documentations, it's usually outdated the second it's spit out, things like that. So, so we got AI documentation, spitting this out of our ontology repository. And then before I go to the third thing here, a lot of our customers kind of stop here, right? Because they're using us to understand what they have, because they don't know, they want to modernize, but they're just not informed enough. the folks that have built these high code systems in complex environments, they're long gone, retired, right? These are 20-year, 30-year-old systems, right? So how do they do that, right? And so they'll stop there. They'll use us to do what's called discovery and documentation as a license subscription model, and then they will rationalize, understand what they have, and we'll help them along the way to inform them what their to-be architecture could be. Now, the third thing that we do here, you see the MCP, which just stands for Modal Context Protocol. It's an Anthropic term to be used as an open API, basically. On the third piece, where you have organizations who already know where they want to go to, or a lot of, we see commercials trying to use AI IDEs like Cursor, Claude. There's a lot of tools out there that try to do code generation. We don't do code generation. I think early on the company tried to do that, but what we found is every organization is very specific for their requirements, and we didn't want to compete in that space because they're just evolving so much faster in that space. Yep. So we stepped away from doing the AI IDE piece, and we'll plug in, we'll expose via MCP, which is interpreted as like an open and API environment. And if you have your target system, you can connect with their logic graph and you can do continuous modernization. What's the value of that? Well, like I said, as soon as documentation is spit out, it's usually outdated, right? So you'll be up to date on documentation. You will reduce rework by having this continuous, opening to the logic graph to understand what's going on, and then, translate that into your to-be architecture. Next slide. I tried here. These are just visual representations of what our software actually kind of looks like. Typically, I would love to do like a demo, but wanted to abide by slides as Dory kind of kept me in line on. So, it's not as glamorous, but it's just kind of gives you a representation of how this stuff works, right? And we are, to be clear, why we love partnering with Clover, amongst others, is we are software based, right? We don't do the delivery model. We don't want to do that, right? We are, we want folks to be living in the software, the devs and the humans, and we're trying to do product innovation within the software. We've even developed Copilot within our software, so you can tell it what to do for your to-be and things like that. So really for folks to live in this software, because it's like, why, I could just spit out documentation, be done with it. It's like, no, it's a continuous modernization exercise. So visual representation that you guys can see. Next slide. Couple of use cases here. This is pretty outdated. This was before I got there, and it's expanded beyond this scope. I'm not going to go through every one, but I think, like I mentioned, we are heavy in FSI, obviously the public sector, as we all hear, in manufacturing. We're in a couple of major global energy companies like Chevron, some big banks, the top 3 global investment bank. You can guess what that is. And a number of different use cases. You'll see in this writing, we're doing discovery and documentation, like I said, but some folks are also using us for continuous modernization because they're like, hey, we need this logic. It's speeding up our time to value from, like I said, years to weeks and months, and they're able to churn out modernization as they've been tasked to do in times that they haven't been able to do. We're having some neat partnerships at play, right? Just because of what we can do. Palantir is engaging us, as some of you might know, in the USDA and DOW, where they're all over. They're using us because our logic is helpful to them and they can get that on their own. And then lastly here, let's go to the last slide. I thought I'd throw this in. Now, it's like I've been getting this in some of my conversations, so I like to be nimble. It's like, okay, so what? That's great. Like Rhino can do extraction, help accelerate modernization, but like, how do we think of use cases, right? And so I threw this up because this is what we're seeing in the market today and some of our biggest engagements, right? We're being told, right, like, hey, I want to do application rationalization, right? You've got a IT budget spend and you want to go down in your apps. You have too many, they're all doing the same different things. You're trying to get past an M&A audit. Boom, we can go in there, help extract business logic and consolidate some of your applications. Or large monolith to microservices engagements, right? we're doing engagement where it's two separate monoliths that are 5 million lines of code, and we are decoupling them and gating the business logic so that they can get nimble and faster, modernize faster there, and a number of other use cases here.
Any questions for Mosa? Go ahead.
Yeah, so you had a system that was like going like COBOL from COBOL to Java, for example. So you were saying earlier that you don't necessarily do the code generation, right? But you do like all the ontologies, like you'll analyze the COBOL system, understand all the different modules, understand the business logic, create a graph. So visually, the engineers and team can see. And then your tool also generates potential user stories, essentially giving them all the tasks, but then they have to go and re-implement that in their target state, which in this example would be Java. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes, we will help get you the requirements and the specs and the outputs, the artifacts, but we will prefer that you use, right, the ultimate, we'll take the last mile, if you will, for the code gen piece, typically like an evolver, or if they want to do it themselves, right, because they have some ID that they're using already, something like that.
And that's, I'll say, Jesus, that's one of the things we really like and value about is because some of our customers want to stay in the high code, okay? Despite me trying to encourage them to go to low code, no code, and say, well, you could put that in Appian. No. Oh, you could put that in ServiceNow. No. What about Salesforce? No. We want to keep it in this high code. Oh, okay, that's fine. You could also put it in AWS in the Gov Cloud, right? Or you could put it in Microsoft Azure. You could containerize it, right, and make it a microservice. Whatever you want to do. We like that flexibility. Okay, so that's separate and distinct. It gives our customers that capability, right? But obviously we like to try to drive them and motivate them to go to a low code, no code platform. And if I'm recommending to one of my customers, if they're on ServiceNow, then I'm going to suggest, okay, you're probably going to want to leverage it with a ServiceNow platform. But if they've decided, like the Army, we're going to go Salesforce, then, we'll help you put it in Salesforce. Or if you're looking for a very effective low code, no code that's lower cost than Salesforce and ServiceNow, which are expensive.
Yes, they are.
Then I would recommend Appian.
Yeah.
And you should know that Rhino AI is very closely aligned. I think that's fair to say.
I mean, yeah, we've got 3 former execs that built Appian when it was a small startup.
I think the output from Rhino can be used by Appian Composer as ingestible, so directly create a modern app.
Yeah, it really rapidly facilitates it if you're going to want to go to an Appian platform, but we like that flexibility that it gives our customers. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
It's a question on I'm thinking about your as is and to be architecture talk. Have you used it in like R&D from the ideation phase of what ideas could result in what kind of a to-be architecture, and then maybe even assess it as it matures of defining on-ramps or exit ramps? Because there's a big decision of how much money you're going to put into R&D, and you've got all this big funnel of ideas you got to get to. And a lot of times it comes down to that. Where is it going for that to-be architecture?
For sure. I'm going to take a stab at this because we do, I mean, look, we're pretty flexible in how we can go to market. We have done some exercises because we can pilot our solution. But, we'll do some of this work for you and we'll show you the output, right? And a lot of times we've used that for the government, obviously, just to show them like what it could look like, because they need help, right? They're like, we don't know. Can you give us some sense? We don't know if we want to go to ServiceNow or Salesforce and things like that. First, do the discovery and documentation, and then, hey, be great partners and show us what options there are. And so we've done some, I don't know if that answers your question, but we've done things like that to kind of show them what it could look like based on what they're trying to do, right, for the next few years.
And I think, Scott, that's where I think Evolver comes into play, working with Rhino to kind of give different options to the customer to say, hey, this is your rationalization. This could be the transformation path you can take. And these are the 3 options. With this, the end result in mind and total cost of ownership across, the ownership of the program. So
I can't think of how many millions of dollars we wasted now that I don't work for them anymore at Northrop Grumman in R&D investments that really should have been
weeded out earlier.
Exactly, yeah.
Very true statement. Okay, any other last questions from us? Excellent. Thank you very much. Nice job. Okay, we had scheduled to be here at 2:00. I apologize. I'm 5 minutes behind schedule. I will try to recover. All right, so a couple of quick data points, and I think I've got one more slide. Yeah. So here's what I want to touch on. One, all of you should have a copy of this. So all of the Evolver integrated technology solutions that were presented today, you have a hard copy. Dory calls them a one pager. I call it 2-page because it's, 1 page, 2 sides. But however you want to phrase it, but it's a nice marketing summary of our combined capabilities with each of the 7 companies and the 8 Evolver integrated technology solutions that were mentioned today. Also, Jamie mentioned 2 other partners that we have. We have write-ups on those. We call those Engage and Elevate. Thank you. I created them. Sometimes I forget them. Okay. So super excited about being able to bring even more technologies on to our partnership program over the next couple months, and we will continue to do that. We will be doing public announcements and I'll say LinkedIn announcements about some of our newer partnerships, that some of which you heard today that haven't been publicly announced yet. So we'll be working with you to do that. And Dory and the team said, Greg, make sure you talk about what we want to spend, at least offer, right, in the next half an hour, however long you want to spend and share with us. Well, offered to do these kinds of things working with you. We are very interested in talking with you, working with you today in the future about planning and conducting joint marketing via leveraging each other's websites, via leveraging social media, even conducting joint exhibits at key government industry tech seminars. I was talking with Sarah Fox, who's a new member of Josh's team, who I'm going to introduce formally in just a moment. And I said, well, which events are you planning to go to? And she goes, boom, boom, boom. And I go, oh, that's great. I said, you know what? I think I want to introduce you to several of our technology partners. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here today, but Josh is here, right, representing the team and some of his other key folks. She's over at Andrews Air Force Base today, working an opportunity, there. But for example, like AFCEA West, right? Some of you know what a big event that is for the Navy, and especially, well, for all of DoD, but especially for the Navy out in San Diego in February, really tough duty, right? So a lot of my people be interested in going there with you. But I'd like to offer, to maybe, sponsor like a joint booth, right? So it could be like Evolver and team, or we could have all of our logos, up there and, and be able to showcase 3 or 4 of our solutions in an integrated way and do a cost sharing. So we make it a little bit more affordable for each of us, just food for thought, joint articles, joint white papers, tech demos. A lot of this we're doing on our own right now based upon our knowledge, our write-ups, our summaries. One of my newest partners who I was just talking to last night said, Greg, what can I do to help me sell my software? And I said, well, if you could get me a 5 to 10 minute video, right, that's canned but looks, professional, right, that I could share with my customers, because part of the time is I got customers that want to see demos, but it's impossible getting on their schedule. They really don't want to have time for a half an hour, an hour. If you could give me just a short 5-10 minute sort of teaser video, that would be fantastic. Okay. It could be a YouTube and just with a link that we can go to and direct people to. That'd be super helpful. Okay. If you come across any customers that you've got the software, but you don't have the, I'll say the services, side, come to us and open up a door. Or if you see an opportunity for one of our other partners, that you're saying, hey, this might be a good match for, this company that I heard at the, Tech, Evolver Tech Partner Summit, we'd be happy to pass that along, coordinate it, reach out directly. We're here to facilitate, right? We want, as Mike said, to raise the level for everybody, right? And so giving us videos would be helpful. I will continue, as I've done already, to reach out to our partners and look for ways to get you engaged in our industry, right? In the GovCon industry, through participation in the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council, which many of you are joining our Evolver team at the Emerging Technology and Innovation Conference over the next 2 days. We're going to be participating at PSC events, AFCEA, that's the Armed Forces Communications Electronics Association.
Freudian slip.
Potomac Officers.
One branch that matters.
Potomac Officers Club. And PSC is Professional Services Council, if you're not familiar. So we're actively engaged with all of them, sponsoring different events and activities. And recently I was added to the board of directors for ACT-IAC and made one of the leaders on their executive committee for what they call Institute of Innovation. Okay. So it is literally my job to bring innovation to the government industry, right? And so I want to leverage your collective capabilities wherever I can, okay? And so I'm going to look for ways to help showcase your companies and your software. Is a win for you, is a win for us, right? So one team, one fight, okay? And speaking of which, I'm going to reach out to some of you and say, would you be interested in being a tech demo partner at one of the tech demo days that we're a corporate sponsor of with ACT-IAC? We'll also be a corporate sponsor in October at the ACT-IAC Cyber Summit. And I'd like to have, at least a representation of maybe 3 or 4 of our cybersecurity partners under the Evolver brand, banner there that we could present. Okay. So I'm just brainstorming here, right? And there's a whole lot more. And Josh is much better at this and more experienced at this than I am. So let me introduce our new Chief Growth Officer. Okay. And Josh has got a great background in building small businesses to mid-sized businesses and mid-sized businesses into large businesses. And so I'm delighted to have a new Chief Growth Officer. Josh, been here, since December? Yep. Yep. So he's hit the ground.
Not so new anymore. High expectations.
Yeah. He's hit the ground running.
Mike's
and
the kid.
he's really built up our BD and capture and really given us a lot more maturity and capability. Has just implemented the Technomile, the customer relationship management system. So he's done a lot in the short time that he's been here. So I'm delighted to have Josh as a partner. Sir?
That's right. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for being here. Really encouraged. I've seen some folks, Chris's solutions, some others. Some of you I was learning about mostly, besides reading Greg's white papers and all that. So it was really fantastic to meet everybody. We appreciate it. I want to introduce the team, but real quick, we look at this group, our Evolver Innovative Technology Solutions. You're kind of our low code differentiator, if you will, right? Innovation, differentiation as we go and meet with customers, as we solution, as we figure out how we're going to go be better, faster, cheaper options for government, right? And it's really an impressive group, and it kind of gives us, the jet fuel to go and meet with customers and build ideas and partnerships and build solutions as we chase business. So really impressed by what Greg's put together. Certainly makes my job a heck of a lot easier. And Dory and Leah, thanks again for all your efforts. I know Leah's not in here, but the logistics around these things are never easy. And this has gone pretty seamlessly, and it wasn't without a lot of effort behind the scenes. So let me just take a minute. We are the Evolver growth team. So we are kind of your front end, if you will, as you have opportunities with customers, whatever ideas and things that you want to bring forward, we are happy to be that front end to build those solutions. I want to introduce a couple people who are here. First, Melissa Mara. Melissa leads our health business development. So that's like CMS, where you saw earlier that we have the HIOS program. We have a nice piece of work in NIH supporting CIT. So anything HHS, NIH, CMS, or other DHA. So if you have opportunities within the federal healthcare space, Melissa, you can always reach out to Greg. He can filter it to Melissa. But Melissa's kind of on the pointy edge of the spear, looking at health opportunities. And she's kind of the long-term Evolver veteran on the team, keeps us grounded and lets us know where the bodies are buried and so forth, because a lot of the rest of us are new on the growth team. Greg mentioned Sarah Fox. Sarah leads our DOW business development. And so anything that's, Navy, Air Force, DISA, I would say those are kind of the core targeted customers. But anything within DISA, like I said, Air Force or Navy, Sarah is your person. And I'll make sure that she gets that if you can reach out to me. We have Jesus Jackson here. Jesus is the newest member of the team. Jesus is our kind of growth technical SME. So as we're putting together technical solutions for customers, meeting with customers, Jesus is part of the growth team and putting that all together. Jesus and I have now worked together at 3 different jobs, different companies. And so I have a good idea of kind of what he brings to the table. I know he'd be happy to dig in with a lot of you guys as we're looking at solving, big customer challenges. We have other members of the team, Leah Broussard, who kind of does a lot of the behind the scenes proposal, support work and all that. But we have a great proposal team. I've seen the evolution, the evolving, if you will, of our proposal capabilities since over the last few months, and really proud of a lot. We've submitted really high quality documents, highlighting many of you in the room, and maybe almost all of you in the room at one point or another to customers, and really proud of that. So definitely reach out to me. I look forward to collaborating with each of you. And again, thank you for being here, and look forward to chatting with all you guys later today and tomorrow and Friday at ACT-IAC. Thanks.
So one of the things I really like about partnering with Josh is he likes to use technology and use our tools. And he's whenever we do BD meetings and capture meetings, we're actually using our Technomile system rather than generating separate charts, going through, hey, what's our priorities? What's our focus? And when each of his BD executives and capture executives identify opportunities, we go through a logical gate process. In gate one of the checklist items is all of our Evolver integrated technology solutions. Okay. And his biggest complaint with me is, Greg, you keep creating so many of them, I can't keep the list up to date.
That is true. I did complain.
So I said, I'm not going to slow down. You got to speed up. So we're going to help him update that list. But so we've got some advanced AI that we got working on it, but the reality
AI
is
Chief Growth Officer.
that's right.
Wait, what?
We are having a lot of fun here. We really are leveraging these new technologies, trying to bring really beneficial solutions, because candidly, and look, 24 years in uniform for me. So this is passion for me, right? And I only go to sell technologies to customers that I believe in, right? So it comes off real, it comes off credible. And I say, look, I've been where you bought. I've been the CIO, I've been the CISO, I've been the CTO, I've managed billions of dollars of IT modernization in the Pentagon. I know how difficult this job is. I know how important it is to our nation. I want you to have the best solutions. I want to offer the best technology. And so it's not a sell, it's a problem solving. right? And so that's the way I treat it, and that's how I look at it. And I don't want to offer anything really than what is the best possible combination. So, it's an easy conversation to have, right? I'm not selling stuff I don't believe in, right? And so that's where we are. We're delighted that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us. And now I really just want to offer an open period where we can talk, we can network. If you've got calls you have to make, feel free to do so. If you want to do one-on-ones with myself or any members of our team or small group, let's do it. Let's talk, okay, while you're here. Or if you want to say, hey, pass on cards and let's set up a follow-on meeting, we can do that. Whatever's convenient for you, but we want to offer this time to have those kinds of conversations. And I'll be here no matter what. So just, stay and spend the time with us to the extent that you want to. Okay. So that's really the purpose of this open discussion.
Greg, if I can just add on one thing to some of those collaboration activities, and I've talked to a couple of folks individually, but when you're going in to see customers, whether you get that through any of your, marketing things or they've called you directly, feel free to leverage us. And I think Greg knows a thing or two about the Air Force and may have a connection or two there. So he'd be happy to go in with you and do that first pitch.
And not just the Air Force, but especially the Air Force.
Especially the Air Force.
And I think one more thing, I just thought about it, so there we have so many vehicles. So when you're going in front of the customer, they are looking for revenues. How can we, so we like you, we like your product, we like it. How can we give you a contract? So you have to have a vehicle. So Evolver luckily has, tons of vehicles that are listed on our website. So you can give, you can come with us and you can give them options to say, hey, these are the list of vehicles, GSA schedules that you can use to leverage our services.
Yeah, and again, to that point, because of our history and the acquisitions we've done, we have small business status on some long-standing vehicles like CIO SP3 that just got extended through an ordering period through October 29th. We've got full and open vehicles, right, that we're on. We're on Navy Seaport E, right? We're on DAA, Defense Intelligence Agency site. We're on a host of GSA mass opportunities. We've got small business joint ventures set up. So there's a lot of different ways that government agencies can get to us. So we offer a lot of flexibility in that regard. And, sometimes, they're saying, well, I would, but I really want to get this money to a small business. Well, okay, we've got a small business vehicle that perhaps they could leverage and use. It might be, through us directly, it might be through a joint venture, but we do offer a lot of flexibility in that regard. Okay, good points. Any others sort of good for everyone, that people, questions, comments, suggestions?
Just one thought. Because of the work that we do and because we partner with a lot of next generation technology companies, we're interested in creating that next generation cybersecurity architecture options. So that could be something that we, have like a little, standing collaboration group, because a lot of the legacy capabilities are expensive,
Yes.
heavy,
Yep.
not easy to integrate and automate and everything. And if we can architect something, especially for the mid-tier agencies.
So, Terry, you'll be happy to know that Greg has already developed a one-page architecture solution for all of our cybersecurity solutions.
Cool.
That Dory is still helping me with the graphics on. Right. That I do have to, in all fairness to NetRise, I do have to incorporate NetRise into that diagram. But I've got something that I think you'll like. Okay. But I'm not dismissing what you say. I would love to do that and bring my friend and colleague, Dr. Brian Mickelier, who's been a partner with me on a lot of these thought leadership activities to leverage, right? So we'd be happy to do that. And I'd be happy to do that with anyone who's looking to extend their capabilities, right? And I always look at, when I'm designing, the overarching, like, for example, quantum security, right? And I'm always looking at across the network within the sort of the traditional boundaries of the network, but I'm also always looking at the supply chain that feeds into that, okay? And then at the same time, all of the underlying software. So it all feeds together, right? Because again, I'm a systems engineer, and so that's just the way I think, right? Always looking for the optimal solution, okay? But we're happy to work with you to design that. Raul and I, we love doing that stuff, all right? And we're going to pull Jesus and Dr. Brian and other colleagues and my friend Scott as we hopefully have the opportunity to move into the space industry as well, because we see some growing opportunities there. Right? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Anybody in the room? I just want to go around real quick individually to everyone. Rick, any questions, comments, suggestions for us?
No, this was great. I mean, it's good to get a feel for the different technologies and stuff that everybody's working with. Try to brainstorm on some partnering arrangements.
And Rick, thank you for your service to CISA. I mean, I know
I
that's
tried to save it. I tried.
it's an organization with a big mission and a very difficult challenge, but I do appreciate, and Scott knows that I spent some quality time working with a lot of the leadership there and a lot of fine people and a lot of great programs.
I was going to comment too. Like, I still have a lot of strong relationships back in the CISA. Very good one. So if you're trying to make inroad or you've been engaged with anybody and you want to reach out to me, let me know. Especially you mentioned threat hunting, depending on if you're talking to like Bobby Thompson, who's running threat hunting now. He's a very good friend of mine. So
Good. So I'm sure Josh is making a mental note of that, and Jesus as well, because we'd love to take you up on that. We are right now a subcontractor to CGI on the CDM Defend program. I believe it's, Michael, keep me straight, CDMF, right, group. And we've got a great working.
C.
Okay. But most of the C work has been closed out. So really just the F is open. Okay. At least based upon my understanding. So the reality is we would love to grow that. We've got a good partnership with CGI, which we're also looking to partner. And, they've been a key player on the CDM program for years. And we'd love to take you up on that offer. Okay. Brian, your thoughts?
This is great. Great to see all the different tech and understand what all you guys are doing. And it's wonderful. I've got a whole page of notes. Follow up with you, Josh and Nitty, to there's a bunch of follow-up stuff with some of your existing customers I think might be potential. And then a bunch of notes in terms of, hey, evolve or you've got customers that might be interested in Nucleus plus whatever technology, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's some integration with a bunch of the tech here that could be useful. So
beautiful.
So we'll start pulling those threads. I look forward to following up.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your comment, and Bill as well. I know he had to head down early, but he seemed to really enjoy the time, and we appreciated his remarks. Okay. Alex?
Nice time but understanding all the opportunities, all the technologies, but arranging in my mind what is suitable for what, and better understand what I can work with my customer and to present.
Good. And I really want you to, pass on that information, as much of those insights you think is appropriate with your engineering team, with our AOC customer. Gary, your thoughts?
Very well done. I enjoyed listening to the under the umbrella of Evolver. And one of the things that Eddie and I have talked about, and we've talked about with a few things, is maybe a few folks is getting together on a monthly basis to review, business opportunities. I think there's a lot going on our side and on your side, and we're hoping that we can get that done. We think it would accomplish a lot and really keep the momentum going.
Right. And so Josh has got his dedicated focus people by market, and all of you know who are the technology capability leaders. And so we'd like for you to reach out to both, right? But, when in doubt, reach out, in your case, to Nitty, right? And Nitty will coordinate with Josh and the team as appropriate, okay? but fantastic. Thank you for being here today, Gary. Eddie?
Yeah, thanks again for having us. I mean, ditto on everything that's been said. You know, the last slide was really good, really effective in terms of making sure that we've got the assets for you, your team, to be able to use. Like we just produced a 2.5-minute video on exactly what we do, real crisp, boom, get in, get out. So, you know, want to make sure that we have the resources available to you to make it as easy as possible to get out there. And
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I'll
I
make
mean,
sure I forward it.
literally, as soon as you get that to me, I'll be
Yeah.
emailing that, either the link or the direct, you know, to customers that are interested.
yeah, I should have actually put it up there and could have saved this about 12 minutes, but next time.
Okay, Greg?
I thought this was incredibly insightful and it definitely opens the door for a lot of future possibilities. And I think we have some great content here to take away and share with our customers. So very exciting.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, in the spirit of the conference, I would say that, and what I might have touched on is that we do have a strong, very strong, meaning on my side, academic R&D pipeline. And one of the things I'll talk about at the conference in the next couple of days is sort of, I don't want to call it kitchen sink because that's a bad analogy, but sort of getting multiple people together for challenge problems, whether there's obviously there's a heavy cybersecurity bent in the room in general, but that is what I've seen. I mean, a lot of us have been around for a while. 15 years ago, I think we were a little bit better at as an R&D group, as an R&D community, at figuring out challenge problems.
Mhm.
You know, so I think that trying to get the band back together with challenge problems and to put a fine point on it and not talk about blue sky things is that, you know, if we get some leverage working together, I will go back and trudge up the hill and start selling those cyber, you know, those challenge problems.
Good.
Because I've done a lot of strategic surprise, you know, consulting for people. And I think this group could be a good holistic kitchen sink.
So one of the panels that ACT asked me to form based upon my industry connections was a panel on emerging technologies in space, which Scott is joining me on, and Eddie is joining me on. And the second was on cybersecurity, which Michael Good, who's the Chief Technology Officer, CTO for Whitehawk, is going to be joining. And Roy, who had to depart a little bit early, is going to be joining from Mix Mode. And our good friend and independent cybersecurity consultant that we leverage, Dr. Brian Mickelier, is going to be supporting that as well. And then I was asked to put together a panel of really top-notch R&D experts. And I was able to get some senior executives from the Air Force Research Lab, from DOD, from Navy Research Lab. And Chris is going to be joining that distinguished panel. And that's going to be Thursday afternoon. The space panel is, Friday afternoon. The space panel is Thursday morning, and the cyber panel is Friday morning, if memory serves me. So thank you all for participating and joining that. Scott, your thoughts for today?
I want to piggyback off of Chris's. I'm in the space industry now with a lot of complex challenge problems that require, and I come from a cybersecurity offensive side bent as well, but it's much broader than just cybersecurity. So what I've seen here and the ability to put some of that together, the opportunity for growth is just, my mind is overflowing. I have lots of notes and follow-up. So this has been really well, and it doesn't surprise me because, Greg, that's what you do, is you bring partners together, and it's really important to do that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Paid for commercial. I did not pay for him to be here, just to be clear. Okay. All right. Jesus, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really appreciate all the partners being here. You know, we're obviously going to try to find ways to introduce your products and capabilities to our customers. I also ask you guys to do the same for us, because where I've seen a lot of success is not just the services vendors, you know, bringing products and innovations to customers, but the product companies taking about from a services perspective, who's the right service partner? That's obviously us. That's Evolver. But I find a lot of success in that. I would also like to get to a point where we're like sharing pipeline together, like down in the weeds, looking at the deals that you guys are tracking. trying to see, the deals that we're going after and the agencies that we're trying to, pursue. I think that's going to be a lot better. So thank you all for coming.
Mike?
Yeah, great day. Again, thank you all. Look forward to meeting you all or seeing you all again and regularly, hopefully. When I think about how much the company's really changed, I've been calling it a metamorphosis because it really has gone from a crawling organization, one that's starting to bud wings. And, you guys are the air under the wings, hopefully. And, one of the best things I heard today, I think from a practical perspective, is that Josh feels like you all make his job easy. So just after this, I'm going to go to the CFO's office and we're going to talk about a new number. Thank you for that.
Your targets just went down.
Go long on Evolver for 26.
What was it?
No, yeah, this was great. I actually really appreciated the presentations from your team as well. It's good to take a step back, see the full scope of what you all do, right? Integrating us and different solutions. Obviously great to hear from all the other partners, got some ideas brewing and especially ways we can collaborate together, I think, right? You talk about joint events, meeting customers together. Those are things that are top of mind for me. So, yeah.
Josh?
I think I said it all, but I think one of the takeaways that I'd like to have is for sure, check-ins, monthly or whatever it is, as Brian mentioned, getting our BD and capture team, hearing where you guys are at with your product, what customers, bringing back the opportunities that we're seeing, that we're going after, vetting it with you guys. So getting more active touch points outside of just Greg and Nitty, which is great, and Raul, but also making sure that the people who are out selling the new deals and whatnot are extremely familiar and get all the benefits, the meaty differentiators and customer kind of benefits that we can offer. Hopefully collaborate on those customer meetings and really using this to all our advantages to get you guys buys and for us to sell our services.
Melissa?
Yeah, I want to just second what Josh just said. I mean, I've been with Evolver 5 years now, and we have exceptional services and always have, but getting in the door with some of these customers, just selling services is never easy, right? So bringing these products together, all our new partners, is very exciting from a growth perspective, because now we have a way to open that door, and not just open the door, but also really help our customers be more efficient and solve their problems. The other piece of it, ACT for anybody, I'm the industry program chair for the Cyber COI, the Community of Interest. And what we do there is we have projects where a government leader will say, I have this challenge, but I don't have the time to figure it out. So we get a government lead, an industry lead, and then they come together with a project plan. We get volunteers and we solve that problem. And there's deliverables that come out of that, white papers. There's been some great ZTA phases that have come out of that. But the newest thing has been postponed cryptography. So I know there's going to be a project for that. So I may reach out to you guys and see if you want to be part of that.
Dave?
Sure. I think it's operations on the ground right in front of the customer every day. I think just learning about and getting an opportunity to hear about all these different technologies is important. That's the only way we're going to be able to make any headway on a regular basis or on a day-to-day basis is to be able to talk about these. The only way we can do that is if we know what they actually do. So I think they're very helpful.
Yeah. Billy?
Yeah, so hopefully we kind of gave you a little bit of a better idea of what all we do, who we talk to, who we work with and all that. There's been some great conversation. Terry and I was talking about some good topics during one of the breaks. And, we're here, we're in front of all these customers, but there's no bad ideas. So we're open to listening and trying to help get all of them sold. But if you have other questions about what we do, who we're talking to, or who we're working with, reach out to us. More than happy to spend time with you at any point.
Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that doesn't really live in the cybersecurity, digital transformation, and IT world, it was very, very interesting to me to hear the various different perspectives and the fact that we are partnering with such innovative solutions, right, for the other side of the business. Again, it's fascinating. It just dawns on me that in this reactive world that the legal technology services lives, there's always opportunities for sort of after action conversations with our clients. And even though those litigators inside of the corporate legal departments or the law firms may not be the right people to sell these solutions, they're certainly going to know the folks because they're reacting, right, with those cases and investigations that they're dealing with. So to not live in those worlds and to fully understand the capabilities and what we can bring to bear, I think was certainly really, really good for me, and kudos to everybody who was able to break that down to a novice like me. So I appreciate it.
Dory?
I mean, thank you all for joining today, and, more information. And from a marketing communications perspective, I've met and talked to many of you on Teams as we've developed the initial announcements, but we love to keep the conversation going, blog posts and, relevant topics in the news that we can tie back, and that sort of thing. So yeah, this has been very, very helpful. From a logistics today perspective, we'll follow up with the presentation, send that to everybody, as well as contact information. So if you don't get each other's business cards, we will send that in the next few days. Yeah.
Fantastic. Nidhi?
No, just to piggyback on what Mike was saying, thank you everyone for coming in and spending the day with us. We do appreciate it, and it was very helpful. So, and I know lots of different conversations have taken place where you had asked about what does Evolver do overall. So I hope we were able to provide that to you today. Mm-hmm. And for those, I do have standing meetings with 4 of the 5, I think, cybersecurity vendors, and I will re-forward that to Josh and Dory so they can attend. Not beat me up on that.
Rahul?
All right, what can I say? But that has already not been said, but, really lovely to have all the partners here. Some of you I've talked to on the phone or Teams, now meeting in person has been great. And I love the conversation that you guys are having amongst yourselves to collaborate and to go as an overall solution. And I think that's what Evolver is looking to do, to kind of tie multiple, siloed, it's a bad word in the context, but you have your own swim lanes, so kind of bring them together into this big pool of solution that we can go solve bigger problems and challenges for the government and even for the commercial and legal practice. So that's really exciting. Thank you.
Karen?
I'd like to reiterate something that one of the
Other way.
solutions said, is we're a SaaS and PaaS company on purpose. We really don't want to do services. We do services when we have to. I think we've lost clients in the past, to include a 5-year government CISO client, because they brought in a separate service entity, and it was a counterpoint where they wanted more FTEs and we wanted more automation. And so we were doing this. And so having a team where you're going in to optimize for the client and on both is the best partnership to have.
That's very well said. Yeah.
Very, very well said. Okay, so again, thank you all for your time, your attention. We've recorded all the sessions. We'll make those available. You've got hard copies of what was presented. We'll provide electronic copies. We want to open it up and let everybody have the opportunity to socialize and network for as long as you like to today. Okay? Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can open up the doors.